Back on Get Up, and we're jumping all over the place. Back to the NBA, where the Western Conference is going to play out in this final weekend. It's crazy. Right now, the defending champs have the 6th seed, which would mean playing Sacramento in round 1. The Pelicans have the top spot in the play-in after beating Denver last night. But New Orleans has a tough remaining schedule, actually the toughest in the entire West. They're hoping to get Zion back. Right now, in 8th place, the Timberwolves have the same record as New Orleans. And Minnesota has been playing really well of late. They just got Karl Anthony Towns back. And they will tonight host the Lakers, who are a half a game behind them. LA has lost the season series against Minnesota, but could get above 500 for the first time this season. A reminder that if the Lakers were to finish as the 9 seed, they would need to win 2 play-in games to make the playoffs. In that scenario, then, their first-round opponent would almost unquestionably be the Nuggets, who LA beat in the conference finals when they won the title in 2020. But that's a really long time ago. So we got the 2 legends kind of battling it out here. And as Jay Williams returns,
the next game is against the Timberwolves, by the way.
Tonight.
Tonight, which obviously helps them in that race.
Or hurts them, depending on how that goes. So if I told you right now, you got LeBron's Lakers, you got Steph's Golden State Warriors. If I told you one of them is going to win the West, which one are you putting your money on? The Lakers.
Since the trade deadline, their defensive rating is 109.1. It's the best in the NBA. When they're healthy, with the addition of Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, Vanderbilt, all these pieces on the wings defensively, they're the best defensive team. Now, look, Anthony Davis needs to play like he did against the Chicago Bulls, who were playing good basketball, by the way, when they got that win the other night.
Yeah.
If LeBron James and him play at a high level, I think they are the team. The one thing that worries me about the Golden State Warriors, that is the biggest story that nobody's really talking about on the national media in the NBA, is the loss of Andrew Wiggins for this team. And nobody knows, Greeny, when he's coming back, because he's obviously dealing with some personal issues. Don't forget about how imperative he was last year during the playoff run for them. In NBA Finals, he averaged 18.5 points, 9.5 rebounds, and he was their best defensive wing player. He's a huge loss for them.
It's hard to know how to talk about that situation because it does seem so outside the norm of our typical conversation. But I think it is simple to say, without Wiggins, they have no chance.
Agreed.
Right? They have no chance of getting to the finals. And I don't know how much of a chance the Lakers have, but I wouldn't put it completely past them. In the meantime, there's one other thing I particularly wanted to bounce off you because of the relationship that I know that you have. I came across these Kevin Durant quotes right before we came on the air this morning, and I want to make sure everyone has seen them. He did an interview with The Athletic, and Kevin Durant said, quote, "I don't care about legacy. I used to want to carve out a lane or space in this game for myself that people can remember, but it's become too much of a thing now. It just becomes too much of a focus on other people. What's he done? What's he done? Comparisons. Before, when we was doing all this debating, I cared about it. I'm about to be in the same breath as these top guys. It was big. Nowadays, I truly, truly don't care. I truly just want to go out there and produce, be the best that I could be, go home, hang with my family. That's it." So again, I will remind anyone who doesn't know, Jay, you've had a long-standing, very close relationship with Kevin Durant. What is your reaction to these comments?
If this is the truth, this is what I've been waiting for. At the end of the day, regardless of whether people said it was the weakest move in the history of sports to go, who gives a damn about what other people think?
To go to Golden State, you mean?
At the end of the day, Greeny, you're going to evaluate my entire body of work when it's all said and done, and then you can tell me if you think I'm one of the greatest. But if I'm Kevin Durant, I know that I'm already one of the damn greatest. And what I need to focus my attention and time on is what's happening right here in front of me. Not engaging people back about where they're dictating what my legacy is going to be, about what talking heads are going to say. I can give zero blinks about that right now. I determine what my greatness is by my performance on the court. And his thing, he used to feel that way. Just think about this for a second, Greeny. If people had called that the weakest move ever to go to Golden State Warriors, imagine if he had stayed with the Golden State Warriors. Imagine we had been talking about the Warriors winning 7, 8 world championships. In the next 20 years, details fade. You would have been talking about Steph Curry and Kevin Durant being the greatest duo the game of basketball has ever seen. This being the greatest team the game has ever seen. I think that's what Kevin Durant is actually realizing now. And if he's realizing that, more power to him.
You know, the
more power to him.
Last conversation I ever had with Kobe Bryant, the last interview I did with him, which was about a year before he tragically died, I asked him about his place in these debates. I asked him how much attention he pays. And of course, this was at that point, 4 years after he retired, 3 years after he retired. And he said to me, I asked him, how much attention do you pay when people compare you to Jordan, when they compare you to Magic, when they compare, and he looked me right in the eye and he said, I don't care. You have your career, you do the best you can, and then you move on and you let other people say whatever they want. And that was such a healthy perspective, I thought, to have on it. And if Kevin Durant, I share what you were saying. Kevin Durant, he gets attacked personally more than anybody else. No one criticizes his game because there's nothing to criticize. They criticize him personally, and I understand why that gets him as upset as it sometimes does. But the best thing he could do about it is to ignore it all completely and just go out there and win another championship.
Let me tell you something, Greeny. So, we talk about who is the greatest winners of all time. We talk about who are the greatest, right? People throw out Michael Jordan, they throw out Kareem, they throw out LeBron, all these debateful things, right? About great, because we measure greatness by championships.
Of course.
If we're just looking at this through strictly talent, basketball skill set, are you going to tell me that Kevin Durant is not one of the greatest that the game of basketball has ever seen? I think every basketball player who plays at a high level will look at this dude and be like, he's a 7-foot unicorn now. Whether that equates to championships, to MVPs, through voters and all this other stuff, I don't give a damn about talent. The game of basketball's never seen something like this before.
Well, but to your point, that's why no one criticizes his game, because there's nothing to criticize.
Exactly.
They just criticize him. I wanted to share that because I think it's fascinating. He's such an interesting person. He's had so many comments before. All right, back on the radio for Jay. Thanks a million, Jay, as always. Meanwhile, time for your wake-up.
He's the Aaron Rodgers of sports radio.
Sure. Except no darkness
Aaron
retreat.
Rodgers of sports radio.
So Kevin Durant, now I'm in a hurry to get it back to Kevin Durant, spoke about his legacy to The Athletic. Listen to this quote. I don't care about legacy. I used to want to carve out a lane or space in this game for myself that people can remember, but it's become too much of a thing now. It just becomes too much of a focus on other people. What he's done, what's he done, comparisons. Before he wasn't doing all this, before when we wasn't doing all this debating, I cared about it. I'm about to be in the same breath as these top guys. It was big. Nowadays, I truly, truly don't care. I truly, said a lot of trulies just then, just want to go out there and produce, be the best that I could be, go home, hang with my family. That's it. Now, KD is, on the team that's favored to come out of the West right now. Once I left to go to the Warriors in 2016, I figured any logical thing when it comes to me, it's out of the window. When it comes to me, people are not going to think in a logical way or simply look what I've done and say that's it. They got to add a narrative to it.
Max?
They got to push something to discredit me.
Max?
What?
Go ahead.
Once I left to go to the Warriors, it's been the gymnastics on how to discredit me every step of the way. It's like, damn, that's not even fun no more, like engaging with people because y'all aren't even being truthful. You move the goalpost every time. You expect the most out of me, and if I don't reach it, I'm a failure. It's like, what's the problem? Jay, it sounds like you're buying some of what he's selling.
Man,
No,
play
I
the
wanna hear
world's
your thoughts on
smallest
this
violin for KD, man. Stop
The
yourself.
world's smallest violin, yeah.
Dear
What's that,
God.
Jay?
Go ahead, Chris.
No, here's the thing. He's talking about not caring about his legacy. That's easy to say after the experiment that was the Brooklyn Nets failed miserably. Like, you are the face of that. If you didn't care about your legacy, why would you leave an ideal basketball situation with the Golden State Warriors to go do your own thing in Brooklyn? You know why you did? Because you wanted to silence all of the critics that criticized you for joining a ready-made title contender. And so you decided, you know what? I'm going to go do my own thing in Brooklyn. I'm going to be the focal point, go get Kyrie to come run with me. We're going to handpick the coach, which they did, and we're going to win championships here, and nobody can do anything to discredit me. You can't do all of those things and then come out of the side of your neck and say, well, yeah, I don't really care about how my legacy is perceived or how I'm revered. That doesn't matter to me. Of course it does, and it should, because of everything that you put in to be as great as you are.
Yeah. You know what, though, Chris? I look at this a little bit differently. I think there was a moment in time where Kevin Durant really did care what everybody else had to say. I think that's why he left Golden State. Because you know that old line, Chris, when you try to please everybody, what do? You please no one. right?
Exactly.
And I think at the end of the day, regardless of whatever, media stuff that goes viral is typically negative. So when, and as athletes, you're naturally built not to hear the positive. Your ears peak when you hear the negative because that typically motivates you. So the combination of both those things for Kevin Durant, I think it was what he was talking about.
Yeah, but let's look at.
Hold on, let me finish.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say that I think at that moment now, if you're KD, it's more so about, that stuff will figure itself out when my body of work is done. So regardless of whatever people want to say now, I have to turn that off in order for me just to focus on what's in front of me because all that other stuff was a distraction and I allowed it to influence me. I actually give him credit if this is what it really is. I hope it's what it really is.
So here's the thing about here's the thing about KD, guys. Chris, of course, he's trying to have it both ways, right? Because clearly he leaves and goes to the Warriors, and as you said, it's not just a ready-made title contender. It's a 73-win team that already won a championship and came within a possession of going back-to-back and only didn't because it was one of the greatest players ever.
LeBron.
Greatest moment, right? Greatest moment, and he was screwed up too. And they just, by the skin of their teeth,